commons area where students can freely study in groups and discuss in groups. Every one of these, the library, now we have the Wi-Fi facilities for the students and the academic staff members. And yeah, we have photocopy and document scanning services. These days, we heavily use this service because students are studying from home, especially the final year students who prepare for their research projects. They request us the books and book chapters so that we make them their soft copies through scanning and send it to them. So if any of your students need book chapters scanned for their research, we can arrange it. And in addition to that, I hope that all of you are aware about the library CAL. You all know about the CAL, the computer assisted learning system through which you teach your students. The library also has a library CAL, and separate page through which we provide access to the recommended reading list in your course modules. I hope you are aware about that. Each subject liaison librarian works on it, sir. So we already have the course modules, the detailed course content with us. So what we do is we go through it, and through the recommended reading lists, we find the books available in the library, and we scan the chapters and upload into the library cal under the each and every course module. Later, if we have time, I will show you it. And by discussing with the respective academic staff members who are teaching that course module, we keep changing those chapters. That means at a given time, we cannot upload more than 20% due to the copyright restrictions. But by communicating with the teachers, according to their teaching schedule, we can upload the next chapter in the second week, third week, like that. We have that service. So students can access the recommended readings in that way. And they can, easily use the library services in your online teaching and learning process. So when it comes to our collections, we have a printed collection, nearly 250,000 books located, stored in the library. In addition to that, we subscribe to very few ebook databases, and also a few electronic journal databases. These two areas that I will focus in today's presentation. And also we have a very limited number of academic journals in printed format. Nowadays, we have decreased the subscriptions for the printed journals because we have access to more electronic journal databases. So these things, I'm sure you are familiar, how to find books in the library. There is a catalog to find whether the books that you are looking for is available in the library or not. And even this catalog can be searched from your desktop through the library website. We have the access, link to this online catalog. This kind of interface will appear through which you can search for the books available, whether the book that you are looking for, whether it is available in the library or not. Like, so the search results appear like this, and it also indicates whether this book is on shelf or whether it is borrowed by a particular, by someone. So like this, you can, from your desktop, you can search and find the books in the library, and make sure before you are visiting the library, you can make sure this book is available in the library. So this service would be more useful in this time. Yeah, so these some of these things are basic things. When it comes to the physical arrangement, we divide books according to the subject and arrange them in the bookshelves. All of you are aware of the basic numbers assigned for your particular subject areas. Especially in the science faculty, you will find more books in 500 and 600 science and technology. In addition to that, you will find the books related to computer science and ICT around this 000 subject area. So these are the basic things. Basically, we divide books according to their subject content and organize them in the library. And So most of our library services can be accessed through the library website. So before we move to the electronic resources, first of all, let me bring you to the library website and introduce you the some of the basic things. So we keep these interface, you know, changing frequently, I mean updating frequently. Now the priority is given to the recommended readings because this is a heavily used area by the students. Now for an example, if I show with my own faculty, because I don't have access to the science faculty CAL. So this is the students interface could be little bit, I mean, different. But we have for each and every faculty we have divided the library CAL according to the academic department, and under which we again divide it according to the level, with the level 1, level 2, or level 3, like this, and then according to the course module. And then we have uploaded the scanned soft copies of these recommended textbooks, and once the students click on it, they can get the soft copy. They can read and download it. So this the similar arrangement is for the science faculty as well. So when I invite you all to encourage your students to use the library CAL for finding the recommended readings for their course modules. The way that they should access would be similar to this one in my own faculty. So we have given that link at the beginning. Yeah. Then we have this subject liaison librarian service. Through which both the students and as well as the academic staff members can find specific information and services related to your faculty, and see who is your faculty librarian and what kind of services offered by him, and his contact information there, so that you can join with that librarian for the specific services related to your faculty. And so that is subject liaison service. Then we have, this is the link for searching the library catalog from your home, and then we have listed the ebooks and e-journals databases. So most of our resources and services, without going further in the library website, you can find out them in the in our library homepage. So basically, these are the things. The other things are the library news, etc. In addition to that, through menus also you can access the library resources and services. Even if you go through collections and e-collections, still you can find the same ebooks and e-journals. And also for the students, we also have this past papers online service, through which they can access the past papers relevant to their course modules. Nowadays we are scanning those past papers and uploading them into the past paper repository. Again, it is divided according to the faculty and the academic department, and then the past papers are arranged according to the course modules. So these are the basic services that you can get through the library website. Now let me move to my presentation. So if you want to access our library's e-resources, you will have to first visit this library website, and then you can access our e-resources, including the e-journals and e-book databases. When it comes to the e-book e-journals database, this is the page for the e-journal databases, and it will list all the databases available for our university community. So actually now we have nearly 6 databases when it comes to electronic journals, but unlike the past, now we have created only one login system for all our databases. That is not something done by the library itself, but all the students and the academic staff members can use their CalaniNet ID and password, which usually you use for other services in the university, including the Wi-Fi. You can use the same ID and password to access the library databases as well. So once you give this password, use it. I mean, unless you log out again and again from your own computer, you can use the same password to access all the ebook and e-journal databases. So when you go to the library website and select the e-journal databases and select a particular database, then you just click here click to access. Then it will bring you to this login page where you will provide your username and password already given to you by the ICT center, and then it will bring you to the relevant database. So these are the databases, the e-journal databases that we have access for the moment. And some of these databases are actually subscribed by the university. That means the university or the particular academic faculty pays the subscription cost. And some databases we have got the access through the University Library Consortium facilitated by the University Grants Commission. So in such case, the entire university system in Sri Lanka has access to those databases, but we have some particular databases like Gesto, where the faculty funds are used. But the most important thing to remember is that actually these databases are the full text databases. They are very comprehensive, but you may not expect from each and every databases a full range of subject coverage, because it depends on the faculty who have provided funds to subscribe to this database. So in many cases, actually most of the databases, the majority of the content are actually related to the commerce and management studies, arts and humanities, social sciences, and we have only very limited number of databases for science and technology. So although we say that we have like 6 databases, actually when it comes to the reality, we will have only access to a part of that database. We call them as modules or sub-collections, right? Some of them related to medicine. So then when it comes to medicine, the medical faculty contributes. So like it happens like that. But basically when it comes to the Faculty of Science, the EBSCOhost database and Taylor and Francis database, we have more resources related to science. When it comes to a database like JSTOR, actually it is not, it doesn't provide access to the current issues of journals. JSTOR is archival database, journal storage, the GESTO means journal storage. So you can access the archive. That means back issues of the journals. Basically, in our case, they are the science, the arts and humanities and the business journals are available. But there are some journals related to basic science. Um, So whenever you use, access the database. Now here, for an example, I have taken this example from the EBSCOhost. Whenever you use the University of Kelaniya ID and password, when you log into the database, it will indicate that you are accessing through University of Kelaniya. So by using this service, even from home, you can access these databases. So it will identify that you are a user from the University of Kelaniya. And let me first, take some examples from this EBSCO host database. EBSCO host database, we have subscribed to two modules. One is this academic search complete database, which gives access to the full text of periodicals or the journals, and also we have access to their ebook collection as well, which I will introduce when it comes to the ebooks. So this academic search complete database of EBSCO, later we can go for a real-time search. When you go to the, once you logged in, this will be the first page appears. So if you want to know what are the titles available, accessible to our university, you can simply click on the title list, because although they say that they have 8,500 full text journals, depending on our subscriptions, we will have access to a limited number of journals. So we can click on this title list, then it will indicate, list all the journals available in them, and indicating that the journals that we have access, it will be indicated in like in this manner, um, indicating we have access to the full text. In addition to that, if you want to make sure whether the particular journal, whether we have access to that, you can search it in the same interface like this. For example, here I have searched International Journal of Food Properties. Then it says that this database covers that journal, and we have access to the full text of the journal. So likewise, actually this is the browsing facility. In any database, we have both searching and browsing facility. So by browsing, you can see all the resources available in the database. So through this browsing facility, you can identify what are the journals available, and then identify whether we have full text or not. Then when you click on that particular journal, it will bring you to the home page of that journal, and all the issues from the latest to the archival issues, and very similar to what you have already used in other databases during your studies. We can access the back issues of the journal. In addition to that, if you want to search from the home page, you can even search by using different search terms from the title, author, or the full text search or abstract search, etc. And it will retrieve all the documents related to your search. But when you go through the search results, it will indicate whether we have the accessibility to the full text of that particular journal. So that's how it works. And so if we have access, then it will show that we have access to that journal. By clicking on it, it will bring you to the full text of the journal, which can be either downloaded or printed, or you can store it in your personal folder. So likewise, there are the facilities. I hope we can try on. So we have two options actually to access these databases. One is to go through the submenus, collections, e-collections, and then select e-journals. but since we have make all the databases listed through the home page itself, by simply clicking on this symbol of the database, or the logo of the database, you can directly go to the access page. So it seems earlier the same computer we have access to these databases. That's why without providing the username and password again, I could access to the database directly. So if you are looking for journal articles in EBSCOhost, you have to search through the Academic Search Complete. That is the sub database of EBSCO for journal articles. And in addition to that, we also have this particular collection, ebook academic collection, which provides access to a number of ebooks. I will discuss them later when it comes to that particular topic. So this is the title list. It lists all the journals, but you can still search for a particular journal. So it says that we have access to that journal, to the full text of the journal. And also it gives access to the latest issue. Usually the latest issue in many journals would be the 2020 journal issues, and also to the back issues. So whenever possible, when we subscribe to the databases, we negotiate with the publishers or the vendors to have the perpetual access. That means maybe due to some reason we are unable to renew our subscriptions for a particular year. That means we don't get access to the current issue of the journal, but still we have access to the archives of the journals. So we have to negotiate and make some arrangements. Otherwise, if we don't, renew our subscriptions, we could lose access to both the current journals as well as the archives. So when libraries, access these databases, they make sure that whenever possible, make sure to get access, the perpetual access. Then it enables us to, even without the subscription renewal, it makes us accessible to what we have already subscribed. So likewise, we can go through the search results, and it will show in this case the first first retrievals. It seems that we have access to those journals. These are from the same, because we have this access to this particular journal issue, or the journal, International Journal of Food Properties. So this is how you get it. And in addition to that, you can search the same database if you want to search within that particular journal. Then you can set the parameters. For an example, here I have selected, since it was automatically selected as this particular journal, otherwise you just select the title and then type the title of the journal, and then you give another search parameter and set it as, say for an example, title uh, title of the article. And so that we can search for a specific search term like this. So even without knowing the particular journal, but still you can search the entire database. When you click on it, it will bring you to the particular database. And again, you can search. Still, it retrieves the results from the entire collection. So here you will find that articles are from different journals. Here, Food and Science Nutrition. The second one would be Journal of Food Safety. So like this, uh, it will retrieve the articles that we have access to the full text and or to the abstract level. So although we don't have access to the full text, still by searching this kind of database, you can find what are the relevant articles for your research, and also you can go up to the abstract level, and it's okay. So you can get better understanding whether this particular article is really relevant to your research, because the abstract up to the abstract level, the it is it is free actually. When it comes to the full text, if you haven't subscribed, we cannot. But you can decide on the by reading the abstract whether this is particularly relevant to you, and after deciding that, you can use another option to get that particular article. So when it comes to that part, we have a specific service through which you can request for a particular article from the library. So we can make arrangements. I will describe them later. So please don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged that we don't have access to the full text of that particular article that you are looking for. But still, by searching the database, identify those articles and please request us separately for that article, and we will try our best to get it. We have a couple of options to get those articles. So if you have subscribed, you can directly go to the full text, and like this, and otherwise we can use some other options. So like this, you may get the full text of the article. But we always encourage our users not to, follow what we call as sequential downloading. That means you go to a particular journal issue and download all the articles, and then you go to the next issue. So likewise, if you do it in that way, usually these publishers or the database vendors will identify it, and it could, in future they might even discontinue the service or access to that particular journal or the database if we continue the sequential downloading. So usually we encourage users to download the particular article, because throughout because we have the access to we have the perpetual access. Whenever necessary, you can go and search and get that article. So like this, in this way, you can use the EBSCOhost database. Either you can browse or search this particular database to find the articles that are relevant to your research. And if you have a subscribe, you may get into the full text of the article, or otherwise so we have another example from the same database. So I hope it's not necessary to do another search from the same database. It's the similar interface and similar procedure. And we have another database called Emerald Insight. Uh, in this database also, you can see basically we have access to, so these are the sub collections that we have subscribed, not many. You can see some general collections and also some specific journals we have subscribed. Here we have access to some of the science and technology related collections, specifically on engineering e-journal collection of Emerald. So if you want, when you access our library's homepage, and when you go to Emerald, so here in this case, this database asks the access information, and now it has identified that we have logged from University of Kelaniya. So in this Emerald Insight database, unlike in EBSCO database, you can see what are the sub collections available to University of Kelaniya by clicking on My Products, and it will list the available sub collections to our university. So if I select this particular database, I could see we have access to some of the science and technology journals. Like this. It has arranged articles from the latest article, and you can of course search here, but also you can browse the entire collection, and most of the articles journals would be physical sciences and computer science related journals. And I'm not sure to what extent the content of these journals are related to your particular research interests, but I will just give an idea about the content of these journals. So it is similar. You access these journals to their home pages, and as you may see here, it indicates that we have access to the full text of this journal article. I just followed the browsing method, selecting a particular journal and issue, and going through each and every article of the journal. In addition to that, through the journal homepage or through the database homepage, still you can search for what you are looking for. So this is Emerald database. We have a number of sub collections subscribed by the library. So I encourage you to make a search on Emerald as well when you are looking for research articles for your research work in addition to the EBSCO. Right. Then let me introduce another database. that is Oxford Journals database, Oxford Academic database. It also has several uh, science and technology related journals. Yes. So when you access Oxford Journals database, one is to browse the journals. I mean, if you want to have an idea about what are the journals accessible to us, you can click on journals A to Z. It will list the journals accessible to us. So otherwise, you can select the subject area. So if you select the subject areas, uh, science and mathematics, it will list the journals accessible to our institution alphabetically like this. And then you can select a particular journal and go into that and either browse or search those search the research articles in that particular journal. So we have access to the full text in both HTML as well as in PDF format. Um, Actually, when it comes to this particular journal and the article, it indicates that this article is an open access article. I will come to that particular topic later to introduce some open access resources. Even within the, even within the commercial publishing, still we have access to the open access journals because this kind of journal might, charge a particular article processing fee from the authors and make that journal, like the entire journal or a particular article of that journal, open access. So in such case, whether we have, irrespective whether we have subscribed to that database or not, everybody will have access to the article because it has been published as an open access journal article. So, however, uh, when you access the Oxford database, the particular path, either select the journals or browse through the search, the subject category would be useful for you to identify the journals available. I hope it is not necessary to uh, go into the database and do a real-time search because the more or less these search interfaces are similar. So you do a particular search on your research interests by using keyword search or title search. Author, if you know a particular author, you can use that author's name. So when it comes to the database, you have these search options, including both simple and advanced search options. In advanced search, you can set parameters according to your search requirements and refine your search results until you get the articles. So this is also a quite useful database in your research when it comes to the science and technology. So these search interfaces, differs, little from database to database. Since you are experienced researchers, you won't find it, difficult in locating an article in the database if it is, available, right? If you really need to search something in the database, please tell me so that I can try. And then we have access to another major database called Taylor and Francis Online. In this database also, there are a number of journals available for science and technology. Actually, these workshops, my primary, objective was to, make this presentation as an awareness presentation more than a hands-on session for searching for specific, information. But we can assist either students or the academic staff members when they are doing literature survey for their research. We can assist, our librarians can assist, they can work with the researchers to search a particular database. So if conditions get better, you can visit the library and sit with the librarian in front of a computer and open the database, and according to your requirements, we can search for you. Otherwise, during these days, we can connect with you remotely and do a search for you. But since this particular lectures today, I thought that it's better to first give and raise the awareness among you regarding what are the resources available for us. So when we come to this Taylor and Francis Online eJournal database, again, it has already recognized us that we are accessing from the University of Kelaniya. Here also they say that they have more than 4.5 million articles in their database. They have divided it according to the subject area. That would be more beneficial to you. Otherwise, you can select on A to Z journal list, which will list all the journals available in their databases. If I just simply click on physical sciences as a subject field, I just selected physical sciences. Then again, it divides into two categories: articles, like 482,000 articles, more than 482 articles in this particular subject, physical sciences, which comes from 184 journals. So here you can search and filter a particular article from out of these 482,924 articles. Otherwise, you can click on journals, then it will list the journals available in this category A to Z. So you may decide what is the option you use to access it. So this has journals both. I mean, we have access and not. So when it comes to the journals with this symbol, the tick symbol or the check symbol in light green or the shaded green, that means we don't have access to the full text of that journal. We will have partial access, that means we have access only up to the abstract level. But if you browse, you will come across some journals with this kind of icon indicated. That means we have, in our subscriptions, we have access to the full text of this particular journal. So likewise, you can browse and see whether our library has access to the full text or not. Let me just move to my presentation a bit. So like this. For an example, if we select this particular journal, we will have access to the entire collection. On one hand, it is an open access journal, but even if it is not open access journal, if we have subscribed to that particular journal, then we will have access to that particular article. So in this case, you may see that it will indicate whether this journal, the entire journal, can see the open access icon next to the journal title. So in a journal like this, it is not an open access journal, but still we have access to the articles because we have subscribed to that particular journal. So, although this is not an open access journal, which makes articles accessible to each and everyone, but this journal has made accessible to us because we have paid for that journal. So we have access to the full text. I just browsed this database, but still you can search it if you are looking for specific, keywords or research areas. So like this, I just introduce you few databases that we have access. We have access through Taylor and Francis. We have access to some journals like this, which are open access journals, another journal, and also the journals which are not open access, but we have the full the access to the full text of the journal since we have subscribed to that particular journal. Actually, we now I was searching for 5 databases separately, so it may consume your time since we have like 5-6 databases. Still, if you need, you can make a federated search. That means if you use the federated search for electronic databases facility on our library homepage, without accessing each and every database individually, you can search the content of all the subscribed databases by our library through a single, interface. The link was available some time ago. Let me make sure maybe later I will share that facility. So we have a facility where you can search. This federated search is facilitated through Google. and it enables us to search all the databases through a single interface, and then it will retrieve the search results from various different databases and get into the same page so that you can access it without accessing the databases separately. Then in addition to that, I would like to introduce some open access journals. Apart from the open access journals available in those databases, I'm sure that you all are quite aware about the open access and open access movement. Maybe here, maybe some of the researchers who are strong supporters for open access. Of course, we all are strong supporters for open access because we want our research findings freely available to the end users to make more impact. But the problem is that when it comes to the publishing industry, the commercial publishers, they make excessive profits out of our hard work, because usually everything becomes free because usually the editors work for free, the reviewers work for free, authors submit articles, they are not get paid, but the publishers make a lot of profit. So that's why like a couple of decades ago there was a movement in the uh, academic the scholarly communication called open access, and then the academics, the researchers, they questioned why we should let these publishers to make huge profits out of our work. And the problem is that, for an example, in a university like this, we are public university, our research is funded by the public, but when it appears in a commercial journal, even for our own community, we will not get access to that particular article. We have to get, even if you want to share it with our community, we have to get their permission, etc. So that's why scholars decided to go for the open access. And uh, so there are several open access, avenues in open access. So the open access means that the open access means actually simply means that for the end user there should not be any barriers, especially the financial barriers or other barriers to access. It should be freely available to the end user, but you have to find some mechanism or strategy to cover the publication cost of the journal. So it can be covered in different ways. Either basically what happens is that the particular journal charges an article processing fee from the APC from the author. So the author himself or his institution or his research grant will allocate money for that purpose. Otherwise, there are some initiatives in which a particular institute or organization will help a particular journal to go or to become an open access journal. In that case, all the financial issues are solved through that particular project. For an example, I hope that you are familiar with the Sri Lanka Journals Online project. Our one of our faculty, science faculty journal is also available there. I will come to that later. So in that case, the authors don't have to pay for any article processing charges because that service is supported by some other grant or institution. So open access, there are actually three avenues. One is known as gold open access. You can provide access to your research. Uh, you can provide open access to your research work through three options. One is gold open access. That means you publish your article in an open access journal, right? So in that case, whether you pay for your, I mean, whether you or your institution pay the article processing charge, it depends. So some journals in gold open access are entirely open access journals. I mean, all the articles available in that journal will be open access. So there are some journals, they are hybrid journals. They follow the traditional method, but if author decides that I should publish it as an open access article, then you pay the article processing charges, and then your particular article will be made open access to everyone. Other articles would be restricted to the payments or the subscriptions. The second way is that you can make your research work open access through the green open access. Green open access means that you make an e-print of your paper available either through your departments or your personal website, or you upload it into a repository. It can be an institutional repository like ours, or it can be a kind of a subject or discipline repository like Archive, ARXIV, Archive, you all are aware about that. So likewise, you can make your article available through a repository or a web page. And so it depends on if you make that article e-print available in a repository, then you have to see if you are publishing the same article in a journal, then you have to see what are the policies of that particular journal, because in many cases journals don't, in good old days they didn't allow it, but recently with the open access movement, now journals have changed their policies, but still it depends whether you publish your paper in a repository in the preprint format. Preprint format means that it has not been peer reviewed, so it is your draft of your manuscript. You can upload it. Otherwise, after the peer review, you made modifications and you can upload it. That means post print. Or otherwise, you can. Some publishers allow to share the e-print of your article, the publisher's version. Once everything is finalized, you can share it in your personal website or in your institutional repository or a subject repository like Archive. So it depends. So that is known as green open access. Okay? So gold open access means you publish in an open access journal. Green means you upload the e-print of your research paper in a repository or your database. And the other one is the latest one is diamond open access route. That means there is no article processing charges at all. That the particular journal, the whole journal becomes open access. In that case, the publishers have to find some alternative way to cover the charges. Usually, the journals published by the academic institutions or learned societies, professional associations, they don't publish journals for profit making like the commercial publishers. So if they get enough, I mean, financial support to host their journal online, they directly go to diamond open access mode. Or some printed journals which were published for a couple of decades now, they have moved entirely to this diamond open access mode, and now they don't publish print, they publish it as an open access journal with the support of some other grant or organization. So if you are interested in open access journals, there is an authoritative list of the international open access journals called DOAJ, Directory of Open Access Journals. It lists, I think, more than 15,000 journals, open access journals related to different disciplines, which are published all over the world in different languages. And so recently they have changed the interface. So anyway, if you search for that particular service, actually this is a service which helps you to identify the open access journals. So if somebody tells you that our journal is an open access journal, and if somebody invites you to write an article, if you want to make sure whether it is a legitimate or trustworthy journal, one option would be to check that particular journal against this directory of open access journals list. If it is available there, that means it's a legitimate journal, because we will come later to discuss about the predatory journals and how to identify them. One of the criteria to identify whether it is a legitimate journal or a predatory journal would be to check that particular journal against this directory of open access journals, because they have some strict criteria to select the journal. They don't include all the open access journals into their list. and they have some criteria. If the particular journal fits to that criteria, you can get their service indexed in the directory of open access journals. It will become a prestige for any journal to be indexed in the open access journal to be indexed in this DOAJ facility. So this when you so you can use this DOAJ for two purposes. One is as a free database to search for articles for your research. On the other hand, to identify the open access venues or the open access journals to publish your research papers. It's for both cases you can use it. So if you really want to know what are the journals, and you can go to the DOAJ database, and you can let me um, visit this particular database and show you. So you can search and find articles here like in any other database. So you can see that there are more than 15,728 journals. So if you're looking for a particular journal, you select the journals and then search. Then it will indicate who is the publisher of the journal. So there are commercial publishers sometimes, the very reputed publishers, and it will indicate whether there is any article processing charges, whether there is any charges or not. If there is any particular charge for the article processing charge, it will indicate. For an example, I will just show in this slide. Screen is not sharing. Okay, share. Now, for an example, in this slide, you can see I just searched under the subjects mathematics. I selected mathematics and then analysis, and I just want to see what are the journals available in the DOAJ on mathematics analysis sub area, and I could find the list of 21 journals listed as open access journals on this particular subject area in DOAJ, and then it lists all the journals and also gives some indication whether this is this journal has any particular article processing charges or not. When it comes to here, this journal, for an example, the per article they charge 1,370 GBP as article processing charge. So it lists both journals which charge or not, the APCs. So you can find publication venues here. If you are willing to publish your papers, you can identify your subject field and search for what are the journals available and what are their conditions. In addition to that, for your research, you can still search for this database. Out of more than 15,000 journals listed, it will retrieve the articles for you. All the articles you will have the access to the full text without any restrictions, since it lists only the open access journals. So in Sri Lanka, we have the same initiative called Sri Lanka Journals Online project. I think this was started around year 2008. Now it is coordinated by the National Science Foundation. They started it with some international support grants from UK institution. By today, there are 93 local journals uh, available in this Sri Lanka Journals online database, and the journals, the service homepage says they have more than 13,000 articles, full text articles available to the entire world. So most of these articles, most of these journals are from academic institutions or professional law learned societies. As you are well aware, in Sri Lanka, we don't have many journals from commercial publishers. So the journals are published by either universities or research institutes or learned or professional associations. So actually, this Sri Lanka Journals Online platform was a very a comfortable platform for them because they were struggling to make their journals online and have their own service for each and every journal. And also some journals were struggling to continue their printed publication due to the lack of funds. So now there are 93 journals. Some of them continue both printed and online journals, but some of them have now shifted from printed to completely online, and so that they have been able to save the printing cost as well, because this is a free service, but there are some criteria and you have to apply for your journal to make available through Sri Lanka Journals online. And if you meet those criteria, then your journal could be published as an open access journal. Even from the very beginning, if you are planning for a journal, you can decide whether you go for it as an open access journal, and so that you can make it available through the Sri Lanka Journals online project. So when it comes to our university, our faculty journal, Journal of Science, is now an open access, published as an open access journal through Sri Lanka Journals online project. And there were a number of other journals. Out of these 93 journals, most of the journals are, when it comes to Sri Lanka Journals online and open access journals online, most of the journals are actually, vast majority of journals are science and technology related journals. Each and every professional or learned societies related to the medicine, they all have their own particular journal, and all those journals have become open access journals. And so for Sri Lankans, if they want to have more global visibility to their research, they can achieve it through the Sri Lanka Journals online. Because if you publish it in a printed journal, locally printed journal, then the global community won't have access to that. Only very few people within Sri Lanka. But if you publish your paper in a local journal, but if it is part of the Sri Lanka Journals online project, then the entire globe has access to that particular paper. So your research impact will be increased by publishing in an open access journal. Then we have a number of ebook databases as well. So these are the ebook databases that we have access. But other than Taylor and Francis and EBSCOhost, all the other databases, we have very few titles. For an example, when it comes to this ProQuest eBook Central, we have subscribed only for 18 medical ebooks, only very few, although we say that we have access to the database. But when it comes to Taylor and Francis and EBSCOhost, we have access to number of ebooks. And again, when you have access, you have to use the your CalendNet ID and password to get the service. So, for an example, if I just show you the Taylor and Francis ebook database again, you can search simple search from the home page. Here I just searched fish parasites, and then it shows what are the books available in the database and also the chapter. So this particular database provide access to books as well as for book chapters. So chapter wise you can get, otherwise you can get access to the entire book. I will just search this particular database. And show you how to access one of our ebook databases. So you can search by keyword, author, or title. And the search results are divided, broadly divided into two categories. If you are looking for books, there are in this particular under this particular keyword, there are 1,234 books retrieved, and when it comes to book chapters, you can see there are more than 16,000. But please note that all these books and book chapters are not accessible to our institute. When you go through, if something indicates like this, that means we have full access. Otherwise, we don't have access, because these are the particular books or the chapters or the subject areas that our institution has subscribed. For an example, in this case, this chapter can be downloaded. So even in this particular search result page, if we have full access, it will indicate we have full access, and then it will show you the download button so that you can download that particular chapter. Like this. And in addition to that, I wonder whether I'm sure that you are already aware about 10 months ago, based on the suggestions by the academic departments of the of each faculty, the library library purchased uh, more than 250 ebooks from Taylor and Francis. I hope you are aware of that, because actually we purchased those ebooks in somewhere in April or March or April 2020. And for science faculty, we have access to nearly 80 ebooks, which are published by Taylor and Francis. At that time, we shared the list with the academic staff members through the heads of departments and the dean. I hope you are aware about that, or otherwise you can ask your subject librarian. Even still, I have that list. For an example, here I have the list for science faculty. So in that case, the entire book is accessible. An example, if I say Handbook of Foodborne Diseases. So if you have this list, just by clicking this DOI, it will directly bring you to the Taylor and Francis database. And if you have already logged it, now this is a particular ebook. The entire ebook is, subscribed by the library or purchased by the library. You can download the entire book here. So likewise, for the faculty of science, we have nearly uh, 80 books. So you can download the entire book, or otherwise you can download chapter wise here, each and every chapter. You can download it separately. Uh, so those books were recommended by the academic departments, and then we have discussed with the publisher and purchased more than 250 books for the entire university. So all these books have perpetual access. That means since we have already paid, like we have purchased in a it comes to a printed book, these books we will have the perpetual access uh, for the future as well. So we have the full text of this book. So in addition to that, I did a particular search previously. Then those are the books covered by our general subscription, but it is a specific subscription for those books. For 79 or 80 books for Faculty of Science, you will always have access to that particular uh, text. So you may go through this list. If you need, I can share it with the research center if necessary. It is already available there. There is no need. Otherwise, we can make arrangements to raise the awareness of the academic staff members and the students. Uh, Physics, environmental, like this. We have 78 books, e-books, published by Taylor and Francis for the Faculty of Science. Uh, so those books are also accessible through the Taylor and Francis e-book database. These are some screenshots of such books out of 79, 78 books. These are some of the titles that we have purchased from Taylor and Francis. Yes. So with this slide, I will finish the introduction of our ebook and e-journal databases. If you do not have any questions, I can proceed to the next part of the presentation. And if you need any assistance, even after this presentation, first you may contact your faculty liaison librarian, or otherwise you can contact me. I can arrange to get the articles or the book chapters required to you, and also I will introduce some other services as well at the end, next part. I will just skip it. So these are the services that we provide, especially for our academic staff members and researchers. So we can conduct literature search on behalf of you, but we have to do it through negotiation and through mutual communication. We can identify your research needs, and then we can search for different databases, open access or subscribed databases, and suggest and come up with recommended resource list for your research. And you can search both primary and secondary sources for your research. You can actually be sort of assistance, because you are the researchers are the people with like requirements, but they can work with the librarian to find the literature. And also when it comes to researchers, we can assist them in managing their bibliographies and citations and reference lists. Especially we can organize uh, training workshops on how to effectively use reference manager software like Mendeley. It is an open source software, so we can arrange workshops if necessary, so that managing your references and citations won't be a burden for you anymore. For you, or otherwise for your students, for your postgraduate students or researchers, we can assist in organizing these kind of workshops and training. And also, your science faculty librarian, he is familiar with this particular typesetting system, science, and when it comes to science and technology, scientific preparing scientific documents on your subject area, the LaTeX one, and also there is a reference management system attached to that called WebTex. He can organize workshops and trainings for your students or you on how to use LaTeX for your scientific writing. And then we have this particular service called Document Supply Service, through which you can request for a particular article or a book chapter which is not available in our library. So we always encourage you to first search our library catalogs or databases and see whether that particular book or article or journal is available for us. If not, you just go through our databases but still find only up to the abstract level and really want to read that article or the book chapter, you can make a request through our library website. We have linked to this document supply service. Use an introduction and it gives you a request form. You can download that request form with something like this. Both students and academic staff members and graduate students can use this service. So we ask for basic information for what you are looking for. First, you may, as you will be the requester, so you have to provide your details, requester and faculty. Then whether you are looking for a journal article or book chapter, then please provide us the bibliography details, title, author, volume number, issue number, etc. And if you are an academic staff member, please indicate your employee number, and students will indicate their student number. And then you complete this form and forward it to your faculty subject liaison librarian. Then we can arrange to get this chapter or article through a couple of ways. The first actually selection for us will be to contact our fellow librarians from other universities and see whether they have access to that particular database. If so, we can immediately get it, either scanned copy, or if it is in an e-journal or e-book, we can get that particular chapter subjected to loan, or their own. They have their own. For an example, if we say that if it is say rare material or something, then they might have some restrictions. So like that. Otherwise, we can get that article. So other than that, our universities have a consortium supported by the University Grants Commission, through which they support us to get articles and book chapters from British Library Document Supply Service. So if our first option doesn't work, then we will write to the focal point or the coordinator of that program, and then they will make arrangement to purchase that particular article for us from the British Library. They pay per article, and then they will make arrangements, and then we will make arrangements to give it to you. So like by using this document supply service, you can request for articles or book chapters which are not available or accessible to our community. Then also we can search for, we can check plagiarism of your graduate students or undergraduate students writings. And for the moment, the subscribe to this Urkund database. The FGS has subscribed, and I came to know that now the Research and Service Center of the Faculty of Science, now they have an account to access to that particular plagiarism checking software. And other than that, at any given time, you can request your subject librarian. He can, if necessary, he can check, because we librarians also have access. Each faculty librarian have access to this particular plagiarism detection software. So we can check the plagiarism of those papers requested to us, and we can provide you the report. And a couple of months ago, we had access, trial access to the Turnitin as well, but we have decided, the university has decided to continue with Urkun software. So we do that. And also, whenever necessary, we can, assist you, your students, for selecting publication venues, especially if you want to, you know, make sure whether a particular journal that you are going to publish, whether it is a legitimate journal or a predatory journal, whether it is an open access journal, whether if it is listed in an, directory like directory of open access journals, we can make sure and assist you to select publication venues. And in addition to that, when it comes to publication of books and monographs, if you want to get a ISBN number for your publication, we can arrange it from the National Library. We can make arrangements to get ISBN numbers for your publications for your departments or faculty publications, ISSNs for journals. We can arrange. So all this comes, as publication support service from the library. And the final part of my presentation will be to give some, indicators on how to, buy the predatory journals. And so it's, it's a very tricky area because especially the new professionals and less experienced professionals, or the graduate students or the researchers would be the victims more than the experienced researchers, because they already know how to identify and differentiate wolf from the sheep. But these people come as genuine and trustworthy and legitimate journals and access and may approach to you in different ways and invite and encourage you to publish in their journals. And but ultimately, you will be dissatisfied with their service. So I'm sure that at least once in your lifetime, you might have received this kind of emails. These type of people get this kind of emails saying that we are so and so company or publisher or journal, and we are writing to you because we have found your paper published in that particular journal or conference, because they are always very specific, and they are looking for recent publications in trustworthy journals or conferences, and they cite it, and you are interested on it, and then please, why don't you submit your paper for our journal as well. They keep sending these emails. So if an email comes like this, then it could be suspicious, right? And also they might invite you to become a reviewer or an editorial board member of a journal, like with this kind of invitation. And so it's very difficult even to distinguish their titles, the journal titles, from the genuine journals, because they are very similar to a genuine journal. Sometimes actually, so these kind of journals are, we call them as predatory journals. They don't, because the thing they do is they violate the basic principles of scholarly communication. Because if you are to publish in a journal, then it has to be peer reviewed. So the biggest problem is that they don't do it properly. But they say that they do it, but they don't do it, and they publish each and everything they get, and because they get an article processing fee from you, and they make a huge profit out of it. So although you are a young researcher, they will call you as an esteemed researcher, something like that. These are words that they are using to persuade you, and they might even say that maybe our journal is indexing these services, but there are some, actually, unfortunately, there are even fake indexing services as well, right? So you have to be very particular. So there can be emails like this and inviting you to publish in a journal. So in such case, you can be suspicious. I mean, you have to be concerned whether this is a legitimate or trustworthy journal or a predatory journal. Um, so the predatory journal publishers, they prioritize self-interest. But when it comes to trustworthy or legitimate journal, it's not the self-interest, but for the benefit of the scholars or scholarly communication. So that's the purpose of the legitimate journals. And so this is a definition. Recent definition appeared in Nature on predatory journals and publishers. They don't follow the best editorial and publication practices, especially the peer review process and lack of transparency, etc. And so I will come to more details. I mean, later. I mean, next slide. How to identify a predatory journal. So some tips would be to identify a predatory journal. That if you are receiving spamming messages from a particular journal, you have to be quite careful. And especially these journals, they promise very fast publication process. Within 72 hours, within 1 week, we will publish. So that is one of the major, you know, things that they focus to attract the prospective, authors, especially when before submitting our thesis. So Viva, we have to publish a couple of papers. And we are very in a hurry to get it, published. So in that case, researchers, graduate students might be misled in this kind of rapid publication processes, and they can sometimes they will charge a submission fee. Usually in open access journal, if there is an APC, they will get it after the peer review, and once it is accepted, you have to pay, because for the peer review usually there is no need of charges because the peer reviewers are doing it for free. But this kind of journals, they can even ask for a submission charge. So if you want, you can even keep this as a checklist to check whether this journal has these qualities. Then it will be helpful for you to identify the suspicious or possible predatory journal. And they don't have sometimes, regular publication schedule, because if it is a journal, usually in the traditional method, they divide it into volumes and issues, and quarterly or biannually they publish it. The publication schedule they don't indicate, and it seems to be new, right? And if you go to the homepage of the journal, only very few public papers are available. So these are some indicators, some tips. And the biggest problem, another problem is that journal name is something, but the content is something different. Sometimes, social sciences journal, there are some articles on physics I have come across like this. So their scope for any journal, there is a scope, no, but they are out of their scope, and they encourage you to submit manuscripts via email instead of journals management system, and they have a very high acceptance rate of papers. That means almost all the papers submitted will be published or accepted. And but they claim to be an international journal, but in your field, you all are aware about the well-known authors in your field, but there are no papers from such well-known authors, but they claim that their journal is an international journal, right? And the editorial board is incomplete or is still to be announced, so there are only names, but there are no their affiliations and other contact information, so you cannot clearly identify. Otherwise, there is an editor, but when you go to that particular publisher's website, they will publish like dozens of these kind of journals. The publisher will publish international journals of these, that. The same editor will be become the editor of different journals from different subject areas. They are not interrelated, so you cannot, because usually using an editor, an expert of a particular area, to serve as an editor of that particular journal. But this kind of journals, The editor handles different journals from different subject areas, so you have to be concerned. Uh, yes, and the website could be poor looking and unprofessional sometimes with lot of spelling and like we discussed earlier, they send open call spamming messages to many authors to submit papers, and there is lack of transparency in their editorial policy, and they don't have proper indexing, but they claim that they are indexing some other service. So that's why I told you have to be concerned about the fake indices or metrics as well. So in such case, there are some resources to identify the legitimate indexes with fake indexes. There are some listing services. This is one of the services, and it has listed the possible uh, misleading and fake metrics from A to Z. So if somebody claims that their journal is indexed in particular indexing service, then you can check it against to this list. Site factor, AE global like this, general impact factor, index Copernicus, journal informatics like this. So these are not real indexing services. So some group of people in the academia, they continue to, keep their members updated about these, malpractices by identify possible predatory journals and predatory indexing services, and they maintain this kind of listing services. So you better get familiar with them. Uh, uh, and they claim to have an impact factor, but it is a latest journal. But so you know that it is a latest journal. It takes some time to be cited their papers and get the impact factor. And sometimes you may have to require, to transfer copyright to the journal, despite it is an open access journal. Because if it's an open access journal, usually you can assign your the copyright policy depending on the Creative Commons. So there is no need again to transfer, because if it's an open access journal, no need to transfer the copyright to the publisher. Usually. So, but they might ask, right? And if the emails that you are getting, if that email looks like unprofessional, it's not affiliated to a particular institute like kln.ac.lk, the journal or publisher's name. It is just a gmail.com email, editor, and they say editor, then the abbreviated journal name, and then at gmail.com or something, then you have to be suspicious. Um, and then there are some services which provide the blacklisted journals, and I will introduce a couple of lists here. Uh, so you can check against whether this suspicious journal is listed in a blacklisted journal list, right? Otherwise, as I introduced earlier, whether this open access journal is listed in the directory of open access journals. Because there are some other services. For an example, this COPE means committee of, they are member publishers. So if the publisher is a member of Committee on Publication Ethics, you can go visit that particular website and see who are the members of this committee. And if they are out of someone other than that, then it could be a suspicious open access publisher. There is another group called Open Access Scholarly Publishers Association. So all the international open access scholarly publishers are members of this group, and this list is available in their website. If the open access journal which invites you to write an article is not a member of this publishers list, so you can identify both journals and publishers by checking against these lists. And if this journal is not known to your colleagues, they are not familiar with that. So this kind of criteria you can use to identify. We cannot say that there are no clear, instructions. Clear, criteria. But these are some of the tips you may use to identify the possible uh, predatory journals. And also you as academics, we will encourage you to pay among your graduate students as well, because they are also going to publish their papers in their studies. So you can teach them how to identify these predatory journals as well. So these are some of the lists. There are two types of lists: blacklist and whitelist. Blacklist actually have listed the suspected journals. Whitelist have listed the legitimate journals or the publishers. Um, so there are basically two lists. One is Beale's list, which was that service was introduced by one of the academic librarians, but that list is not uh, continued for the moment after 2016 or 17, but the service is still there. It's called Beale's list. And there is another service which was introduced after the discontinuation of this service, Cabell's list, but we cannot access it because it's behind a paywall. We have to pay for them. Then only they will provide us the service to identify whether it is a predatory journal or not. But for the moment, still, you may use this Wales list. Uh, so it has listed publishers as well. So for an example, this is the list of publishers identified as suspected open access publishers. You can see there are hundreds of publishers from A to Z. Otherwise, you can just uh, search here. So like you can search the list and browse the list and identify publishers. And they also the standalone journals. They have listed hundreds of standalone possible predatory journals, including their abbreviated journal title. So please check against this list and see whether the journal is listed in this blacklist before you submit your uh, manuscript. So this service helps to identify both publishers and individual journals. So other than that, the DOAJ, I already introduced you. There are more than 15,000 legitimate open access journals. And these are the other associations or committees where the legitimate open access publishers are listed. So if you go to each page, then they will list their members who have registered with them as open access publishers, open access scholarly publishing association. So they are the members. So if the particular journal's publisher is a member of this journal, a member of this service, and registered as a scholarly publisher, open access scholarly publisher, then you may, you can clarify whether it's a possible predatory journal or not. But it's very difficult to provide a comprehensive or perfect list, because these predatory journals or publishers, they always regularly keep changing their names and websites and emails and etc. So somebody has to be really concerned, and so there are some services and groups who are working on this and keeping these things updated, by which to some extent it will be helpful for you to select your publication venue. Uh, so actually these are the things so that I wish to cover in today's presentation. And thank you very much for your attention. Uh, and I am once again thankful to the Director Research and Services Center of the Faculty of Science, Professor Pavitra Vijayasundara, Senior Professor, for inviting us and giving us this opportunity to introduce our library resources and services to the academic staff members of the faculty. If you have any questions, we have another 5 minutes. I'll try to answer at my best, or otherwise you can contact your subject librarian or me. And yeah, we are looking forward as the subject liaison librarians to work closely with you, closely work with the academic staff members so that we can provide a better service for both the academic staff members as well as the students of the university. And thank you for your interest in our library resources and services. Thank you. Okay, then thank you very much for those who have joined with us today to online. Questions, answers. We cannot. Is it possible for me to see that question? Ah. So is that question is who is the librarian for science faculty? There is a question. So the senior assistant librarian in charge of the Faculty of Science is Dr. Suranga Sampath. And I can, if necessary, I can give his email address. Or otherwise, you can find it through the library webpage as well. I can't go. If you go to our subject liaison home pages, you can find the email address of your contact information for each and every subject librarian. I cannot remember it for the moment, but I can mention the name of the subject librarian is Dr. Suranga Sampath. He's the subject liaison librarian for the Faculty of Science. So I encourage you to contact Dr. Sampath for any specific information needs related to the faculty. I think that answers the inquiry. Uh, so if there are no other questions, then let me please wind up this session. Thank you very much for participation. It was a very